So today I'll be focusing on what's new in bank reconciliation space. So there's advanced bank rec and modern bank rec. I'm sure that you're familiar with advanced bank reconciliation. It helps us to import bank statements and also do reconciliation within Dynamics 365. But modern bank reconciliation is a new feature that is GA, generally available with the 10.0.41 release. And you can see that modern bank reconciliation improves the usability and performance of advanced bank reconciliation. So first I'll cover the features that are introduced in advanced bank rec. There are three new features that are introduced, and I'll be touching upon them. The first one is skip reversal flag. So when there was, let's say, a transaction and that got reversed, in the bank statement, you would see both the original transaction and the reversal. And to match them, you would have to have reversal flag on at least one of those transactions. And by enabling this feature, you were able to skip that mandatory validation. The next one is enable batch mode for bank statement and bank statement line posting. This is quite useful. There were instances, and I'll move on to the next slide to show you, there were instances where transactions are marked as new, and previously you would see there would be this post button, and depending on the volume of transactions under this section, this could take a long time to post that, and there would be a session that could time out, which would mean that the user would have to come and do that process again, and it's a time-consuming process, and it would be running on the session. So if the session ends, the process didn't complete. That was a pain point, and by enabling this feature, you would get a post in batch option. So you could allow it to post in batch and then not care about the session, running out or keeping that session active. So that's a cool new feature. The next one is automatically clear bridge transactions. So this one is quite interesting for organizations that use bridge payments, and I'll just briefly explain what a bridge payment is. So there are some organizations that only post to bank account once their transactions has cleared in their banking portal. So what they would do typically is first they would post to a clearing account or a bridge account, and once the transaction is cleared in the bank, then they would come and post the remaining transaction to clear it out of the bridge account and post it to their bank account. So this was a two-step process previously, and by enabling this feature, the second part, which is the GL posting, is now automated. So I'll do a quick demo to show this. So how we would enable this feature is by going to feature management, and I'm looking for a keyword. And in this environment, I have already enabled this feature. If not, you would see an enable button here. And once we enable this feature, we would have to do a few configuration, and I'll show you what those are. So typically we would have a method of payment called bridging, and this bridge posting is the traditional field that was already there. And by enabling this feature, we have bridge account by bank account, and this needs to be set to yes. And once we set this to yes, the bridge account disappears from this field and will be set on the bank account instead. So we navigate to bank account, and you can see here there's a new field added called bridging account. So you define your bridge account, and then under reconciliation, you enable clear bridge transactions during reconciliation. What this does is, once we match the bridge transaction, and then when we mark the bank reconciliation worksheet as reconciled, then it automatically posts the bridging transaction. We also have another setup in the cash and bank parameters under bank reconciliation.
Sorry, Sandra here. Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
Is that just the bank entry, or are you talking about like open item management in relation to the clearing account and then setting those matching rules like transaction type, date, and so forth? Can you
Okay.
explain that a
So
little bit more?
in this one, it's not related to the matching rules. This one's related to the manual action, but it can tie into a matching rule subsequently.
Okay.
Yes. So another setup is the clearing journal name. This isn't mandatory. You could create a new journal name if you wanted to track bridge transactions separately. Now I'll do a quick demo which will clarify what it does.
Yep.
So what I've done is I've already created one part of the bridge transaction. So I have debited the vendor and I've selected the method of payment as bridging, which brings the offset account to our bridge account. And then in the bank reconciliation, let's go to bank reconciliation worksheet. In bank rec, I have this transaction, which is $250, and I'll match that against the bridge transaction, and then I will mark them as matched. And then previously, before this feature was available, once we post this, when we mark this as reconciled, we would have to go to general ledger, and there would be a transaction that would be created that we would have to post manually. But now, once we mark this as reconciled, it will automatically create and post the journal for us. So now if I go to general journals, I refresh the page. I think there's a batch process that's running, so it might take a few seconds. Okay, so there's the new transaction. So once I look at that, what it has done is it has reversed this part. It has debited the bridging account and it has credited the bank account. So this is what the feature enables. It will create and post this transaction on its own, and there's no manual action required.
Got a question for you. How does it recognize when you do the reconciliation that that transaction is a bridging transaction or not?
So it depends on the transaction that I've created already. So if I show you the vendor payment transaction that I matched it in the reconciliation, I have used the method of payment as bridging. So when I reconcile that in the bank reconciliation worksheet, then it knows to do that step. Sorry, you were on mute.
Yeah, I'm okay. So
right.
Essentially, it's in the vendor payment journal, that bridging indicator that when you do the reconciliation here, it automatically recognizes it's a bridging transaction and it does the posting finally from the clearing account. Okay, all right.
All right. Next, I would like to move on to modern bank reconciliation, unless there are any other questions. Okay, so I'll go back to the presentation briefly. So modern bank reconciliation, as I had touched on briefly before, it improves the usability and performance of advanced bank reconciliation. It only works if you already have enabled advanced bank reconciliation. There are several new capabilities that Microsoft has added, and I think we've all been waiting for these changes. Mostly, I've seen in various clients that I've worked with that because of the limitations in advanced bank reconciliation, they would have done some internal customizations to their F&O. And because of this, every customer was doing their own custom logic to make their bank reconciliation process more efficient. With these changes in place with modern bank reconciliation, Microsoft has brought in the changes that most people were using the customizations for. And this is something to note in your organizations, that when we are moving on, or when you're doing upgrades, certain features are made mandatory, and that could mean that your existing customizations might break. And I've seen this in some clients. So just like any other feature, we'll enable modern bank reconciliation via feature management. And it was in preview from 10.0.39. It's available now. However, it's not in the best of its form. It's a good starting point where it is at the moment. It's usable. We can enable modern bank reconciliation and set it up for use, but I'm sure Microsoft is doing a lot more to improve their modern bank reconciliation and add new features. So we will continue to see more changes in this area. So I will do a quick demo now. So once we enable modern bank reconciliation, we'll have to do a little bit of setup. And that is to go to one of the setup is to go to your bank accounts and update customer receipt journal and supplier receipt journal names. And you can see under reconciliation matching rules, previously we had 3 options, but now more options has been added. Previously we had these 3 options. Now we have clear reversal, generate customer payment, generate supplier payment, generate voucher, settle customer invoices. So these are some changes that will help us quite a bit, especially generate customer payment. So when we have customers that have directly made payment to us, that information is on the bank statement. And then by defining some advanced matching rules, by like reconciliation matching rules, we would be able to directly get those transactions posted in our bank account. There's also generate supplier payment, so something very similar to what generate customer payment is. Then we have generate voucher. So previously we had this, like I showed in the other demo, in the first demo, we had this mark as new function. And now that has been, once you enable this modern bank reconciliation, mark as new will not be usable anymore. Instead, you could use generate voucher. Settle customer invoice is also very, very useful. And I think it will take more time. So maybe we could do another webinar on modern bank rec, because it will take at least an hour to go through all the features, to cover the features. But what I'll do is I'll show you one or two useful ones today. So we look at customer settlement. So if we can define this action, generate customer payment, and we can define that, okay, if there's an identifier like the trading party is this, and the bank transaction code is this, and there are a range of other fields that we can use to identify and pick transactions. And then we can say that, okay, if that is the case, then create a customer payment journal for this customer. And you can also define some default dimensions if you like.
Sorry,
Sure.
if that's an inbound payment coming in, is that
Yes.
code there as trading partner? It's something that we would have to ask the customers to put on the statement so that can be applied and then allocated to the correct debtor account, or are you referring to something else?
Yes, so we could do that, as you mentioned, that we tell the customer that you could put this in the trading party when
Debtor
you're
code,
making
yeah.
the payment. Or there are also a list of other fields that you could use. So if your customers are currently using any specific description or any reference, we could use any existing.
Yeah, so you can map it, all right, yeah.
Yes, we could also, like in this example I've showed, that
Yeah.
if this is the trading party, or you may not have this line, or you can say if the related bank account contains this value, then you match it against this customer.
Is there a data entity for that? Because you could be talking about 4,000 or 5,000 debtors.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
that's
we
a
don't want
very
to do 'em.
good point you've raised. This is the current limitation in the system. Because this
Oh,
is quite new, we don't have an open in
so you
Excel.
guys will do it for us.
Yes, yes. Or we could do a DMF import.
That's nice.
So we could prepare a template and then pre-populate the template and then do a bulk import. But because with each rule, you can see settled customer invoice, it looks different from, let's say, generate voucher. The fields for each action are different. So the DMF import is not going to be a quick one to populate, but I'm sure that Microsoft will be working towards an open Excel, which we can bulk update
Of course.
and then
Yeah,
publish.
yeah, like you said, it's in development, so yeah, makes sense.
Yes. So
Thank you.
for one of the common transactions, like when we get a bank interest income or a bank fee, we have a specific transaction code, so we can define that and we can say generate voucher, so that we can populate that in our bank as well. So let me do a quick demo, and I'm aware that I'm already running a bit out of time. I'll make it quick. Now, if I look at this bank reconciliation worksheet, I have certain transactions, and they fit within the rules that I've created for this demo. So I will be running the matching rules manually one by one just to show you in this demo, but in a realistic scenario, you will have matching rule sets, and the matching rule set could run automatically, or you could run a set of rules at one go. So here I'm running this rule called customer settlement. So it will look for a specific customer reference and a bank transaction code, and then create a customer payment journal from there. I could run this in batch if I was running a matching rules set, or if there were too many transactions, I would run it in batch to make it more efficient. But since I'm doing a demo, I just run it on the screen, and you can see one of the transactions has disappeared. I'll run another matching rule. And this time I'm going to run bank transaction. And you'll see this $100 also disappearing now. And you can see those transactions which have disappeared under match transaction. And you'll be able to go to more details by going to the journal. So you can see there's a customer payment journal that got created just now. And if you go to lines, you will see the details of the transaction. The customer is credited and the bank account is debited. Similarly, for the other transaction, which was an interest income, I can go to accounting and I can see the transaction that got posted. So bank account is debited and interest income account is credited. Any questions from that?
Are these where there's, we could be using any of the 4 or 5 different major banks out there with different transaction codes as the source for these auto postings? Are these worksheets and configurations by bank account, so that you will be able to capture, like you mentioned, interest, expense, or received, with the code would be different for Westpac or NAB or Combank and so forth?
Yes. Yes, I understand that. And I think at this stage, it would be different. But I think Microsoft is looking at unifying it so that it could, similar set of rules can be run for maybe a group of bank accounts or a group of banks. But I think that is a bit down the line.
So you'll have a conversion table before you get in here. So for this one single source of truth. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Makes sense. Thank you.
All right.